In 2013, young adult leaders from all over the division convened on the North American Division offices in order to address what was a problem not only for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but for Christianity at large. And that was, we are losing our young adults. So this focus group was tasked with coming up with a way to reach, reclaim, and retain young adults. I had the privilege at the time to be on the ground floor when we did something that was out of the box, and that is, instead of attempting to use the "you lost me" metric that was created by the "you lost me" metric that was created by, I'm sorry, I'm easily distracted. The "you lost me" metric that was created by David Kinnaman, where pastors like myself usually go and get research from Pew or Barna, and we try and then condense it into the Adventist context, because oftentimes we're absent from those statistics. So when you pick up a book by Barna or when you pick up some research by Pew, they always take into consideration mainline Protestantism as well as the Catholic denomination, but groups like us are left out. And so what we did is, instead of trying to distill down their information and make it applicable for our context, we invited the Barna group in to conduct a workshop on the North American Division young adults. And so myself and another individual, a young man some of you may or may not know, by the name of Benjamin Lundquist, were a couple of the young adult coordinators who were there and who then spread out across the division to train young adults, conferences, and pastors to implement this information that we have been given by the Barna group. Well, I started going to, as you can tell, I'm sure it kind of caught you off guard, I went to all of the state conferences, seeing as how I'm a white guy. And so I was going to, well, you can't tell that I'm white?
You're colorblind.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God! When did that happen? No. So I went. I went to the regional conferences, and I started talking to them about this information that we had gotten from the Barna group, where we were able to now say, here were these 5 things that we wanted to do in order to reach, reclaim, and retain young adults. So I was going to the regional conferences, and I would give this presentation, and the presentations would sound a lot like, hey, you know, you got to do this for the millennials. The millennials need this. The millennials need that. The millennials need this. The millennials need that. And what ended up happening was, I noticed that I was alienating the 4 other age cohorts. Because in essence, what we were saying to them is, you guys need to do this for them, and not in turn saying what everyone needed to do together. At the same time we were giving these presentations, I was reading a book by a guy by the name of Patrick Lencioni called The Advantage. And in that book, he introduced me to a term that I love, organizational health. And I realized that in these presentations, I was not promoting organizational health. I was promoting something else. And so as I did these presentations, I felt like I was being called to kind of do more than just tell the churches what they needed to do to get millennials, and I needed to do something a little bit different, and that's what birthed this concept of generational synergy. And so I went looking for research in the Christian context in order to understand, help myself understand, and then share with others how to create this synergy that would lead to a healthy organization. Because the reality is, we don't need to just reach millennials. What we need to do is create a healthy organization which will be attractive to everyone. Because if you isolate one demographic, I have this personal belief that the more you put something under a microscope, the more it will feel like it's being experimented on. And I felt like millennials felt like more of an experiment than somebody that was actually a part of the body. And so I went looking for research in the Christian context, and I found very little. Needless to say, corporate America was far in front of us. They already knew what they needed to do because they wanted to harness not your creative powers alone, not your buy-in, but what they wanted to harness was your dollar. Understand that the millennials, being the 2nd largest age cohort in the history of America, has a very strong dollar. And so they had all of this research laid out, so I started looking at it. And as I looked at it, I understood that what we needed in the church was synergy. And in order to be successful, an organization, including churches, must harness the energies and talents of every member, regardless of age. I realized as I was giving my presentations about what we needed to do to capture the millennial age group, is that I was unwittingly and unknowingly participating in ageism. I was saying that they were just a tad bit more important than someone else. These need from you, never telling them what you may need from them. And that is what will lead us to having a healthy organization. So here is what I like to frame this, and I believe that everything requires, specifically as a pastor, some theological undergirding. There needs to be informed from a biblical perspective. For you guys, because we're doing something on the screen here, you might want to transition over this way. So let me call something to your mind. Imagine a group or a person pregnant with possibilities, written off as too old to birth anything. Hold that in your mind. Imagine a person pregnant with possibilities, written off as too old to birth anything. Or yet another group or person pregnant with potential, maligned because the timing and circumstances surrounding their potential to birth something seemed a bit unorthodox. Did you catch that one? Yeah. Are you able now to contrast the two? Yeah. Here we have one person who is told they're too old to birth something. Here we have another person or group told the timing of your being pregnant is a little questionable and or unorthodox, so you're not ready to birth anything. Mm-hmm. Did you catch it? Now imagine that the salvation of humanity depended on what each person or group birthed working together. Yeah. We all together. Imagine that. Now, age cohort. Let's talk about the age cohorts, because I would suggest to you that currently in the marketplace there are 6 age cohorts. How many did the preacher say? 6. Now there's the GI generation that was born somewhere between 1900 and 1927 or 1928, depending on who you're reading. Then there is what we will deal with primarily 4 of them. Then there are the builders. The builders are a group that is caught between 2 potent and influential generations, earning them the name the swing generation, or also the radio babies. No U.S. president came from this generation. Very interesting. Then we'll talk about the boomers. The boomers, until the millennials, this generation was the largest in U.S. history. No generation had its own literary genre until the boomers. As a matter of fact, until the boomers, there was no such thing as studying an age cohort or studying a generation, because up until the boomers came along, the builders were still transitioning from farm to city. Mm-hmm. And if you go back before the builders to the GI generation, these individuals were part of a generation that received their customs, their work ethic, and all at the same time. So if you were to go to the farm, this is when you could see, in the modern era, before what we'll call now post-modernity, you would be able to see a grandchild behave, act, dress, talk just like her grandmother. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They had the same values, they had the same dress code, because those were being transmitted through the generations in a vacuum, if you will. It was the builders who left the farm, moved to the cities, and started seeking their fortune and seeking their future. And then the boomers came along. The builders come after the generation, the GI generation. The boomers come along after World War II, and there is in America literally an economic boom. They come back on their GI bills. They need houses. So we have to find people who can do carpentry. We have to find people who can cut down trees. We have to find people who can lay linoleum. We have to find people who can build the American dream for each family who's going to have a 2-car garage, a 2-story home, a white picket fence, a dog, a cat, a little boy, and a little girl. This created jobs untold. And it stimulated the economy in such a way that one of the greatest problems that the boomers faced and continue to face was the concept of affluence. They came around in an affluent time, but they're holding on for dear life to those memories. We're in a recession, if you haven't noticed. The next generation are what I like to call the busters. They're called the busters due to the dramatic decline in live births from the preceding generation. In the boomer generation, there was somewhere between 74 and 77 million live births. In the builder generation, there was 55.4 million live births. But when the busters, the Generation X, come along, there's only 51.5 million live births. Calling them the busters is because of the dramatic decline in live births from the preceding generation. They are referred to, or shall I say we are referred to, because I am a buster, as slackers due to what is perceived as a poor work ethic. We are also known as Generation X. The other generation, which is the one that we have spent a lot of time, particularly the Seventh-day Adventist Church, spend a lot of time, both human capital and financial resources studying. As the boomers shaped so much of the U.S. culture for the most of the last half of the 20th century, so they will shape the millennials the first half of the 21st century. So, what I want to call your attention to, particularly the millennials in this room, is the generation that is coming behind you. We spend a lot of time talking about your generation, but just like the builders and those GI generation that was still holding on, spent a lot of time talking about boomers and ignored my generation, we are in danger of doing the exact same thing as it concerns what I call the centennials, or some call Generation Z, or the homelanders. We're not paying them much attention. We're not using the amount of resources that we use to study the millennials or that we use to study the boomers. And within 2 to 3 years, they were able to do something that can change the face of America, and that is vote. The centennials will be able to vote. And whereas you guys are hopelessly optimistic because the boomers were the generational age cohort that was in charge, the centennials will take on my generation's collective psyche, and we are pessimistic. Already, my generation, Busters, Generation X, between 2001 and 2006, the centennials numbered somewhere between, centennial live births were somewhere between 26 and 28 million live births. That busted the boom of the baby boomers. 4 million of them already have smartphones. They are suffering from what economists and sociologists call eco-fatigue. They are not concerned with the world being green. They're tired of hearing about it. Not only that, kids are growing older, younger, because of the access that they have to information. Now, I'm going to put on the screen a number of years that constitute a generational grouping, but I need you to understand that sociologically they are saying that because of the proliferation of information and the access that generations now have to it, the generational divide is growing shorter and shorter. As a matter of fact, the millennials are the first age cohort that has 2 different subgroups inside of it. Millennials that are born between 1980 and 1991 are significantly different from those born between 1992 and 2000. As a matter of fact, most of them don't even want to be in the same room together. The millennials born on the front side are young professionals, 30 and older, in corporate America. On the backside, some of them just barely got out of high school. And they are not the same. So as it concerns the centennials, they are suggesting that the generational divide is shortening or being reduced to about 5 years. What does that mean? That means that kids born between 2006 and 2011 will be significantly different from those born between 2012 and 2017. And so on, and so on, and so on. So, here is kind of, again, that some of it's my theology for why we need generational synergy, and here is from Pew Research done, the generation gap. Here are the percentages of some who see things very differently between young and old. The way they use computers and technology. 73% of those polled believe that they use technology and computers differently. They believe that they like different kinds of music. They believe that they have a different work ethic. They believe that they have different moral values. They show respect differently. They have different political views. They have different religious beliefs. They are just different, one generation from another. As a matter of fact, I like to illustrate this point by calling your attention. How many of you are bilingual? Raise your hand. I don't like any of you. Put your hands down. How many of you are like me, only speak one language? Raise your hand. Yeah, you're the people I like. All right, you can get this. You can get this. You can understand this. So some years ago, I was in a place called Rurrenabaque, Bolivia. Any ever heard of it? Yeah, ever been there? Yeah, that's what I thought. So here I am in Rurrenabaque, Bolivia. Elder Medley, this was one of those times when I really wished I had paid attention in high school Spanish. Because out of nowhere, guess what hit me? The urge to use the bathroom. So there I am. Do you speak Spanish? Yes. Fantastic. I want you to only speak Spanish to me, okay? You ready? Don't do that. That's not fair. That was a false start. We're going to start all over again. Don't make me look funny in front of all of these people. All right, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, that's better. So, here I am. I'm Ru Ranabake, Bolivia, and I have to use the bathroom. What do? I need a bathroom. Can you help me find a bathroom?
¿Cómo fue?
Bathroom.
Huh?
I need a bathroom. I need a bathroom, please. Come on. I need a bathroom. Bathroom.
¿Qué?
Bathroom. PP. LPPO. I need bathroom.
Baño?
You see what happens there? What happens there is what people call the ugly American syndrome. Where you wonder what's wrong with the rest of the world for not speaking my language, not understanding my needs, and not able to meet my needs. And the generations are so dramatically different one from another as to constitute completely different cultures. And in a church and in organizations all across the nation, you have people speaking to one another exactly like that, although they're all speaking English. You don't get it. You don't get it. We like computers. You don't get it. You don't get it. You want to wear jeans. You don't get it. You don't get it. We want to play drums. You don't get it. You will get it. We want to hear the organ. You don't get it. You don't. And the voice level just escalates. Or we begin to speak slower. Or we start spelling out terms. Organ. Or drums. Babooch. Babooch. You know, and so we start doing that. So what we have to do is So what we have to do is, we have to do what any person who's going to a country that don't speak the language does. What do you have to do? You pick up something so that you can find at least some key terms in order to be able to communicate with one another so that you both can get what you need. Amen? So, here's what I want to do. I want to suggest right up front, here is how we bridge the gaps. I'm going to do this just in case we don't get to the end of this presentation. These people over here are members of my church, my former church, and to some of them, they pretend to be members of my current church when they're not working for my conference. So they know I can get a little long-winded. And so just so that we have right up front, how do we bridge the gaps? Here are 5 things I'd like to propose. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, we have to acknowledge the differences. We can't pretend that they don't exist. We can't pretend that they don't exist. We have to acknowledge the difference. We have to talk about those generational differences. The second thing that we have to do after we acknowledge their existence is we have to appreciate that everybody's not the same. Listen, there are some things that you have to appreciate about living in what we call a melting pot in America, where I can get pizza one week and arroz con pollo the next week, and whatever. Because I was going to say no chicken, but you know, hey. You got to appreciate those differences, focusing on the why, not the what, of the common needs. And then you have to adjust, or you have to find where there's some areas where you can be flexible. There are some areas where we can be flexible. Hey, I need you to do that so I can do this, and in turn, you do that so I can do this. You understand? The other thing that we have to do is we have to take advantage of those differences. We have to leverage, maximize the strengths that exist in different age cohorts. For instance, just right up front, at my church, my head deacon, does anybody want to guess the age of my head deacon?
65.
25, 65, whoa. You said 25, my head deacon, you said 62. 62. I like these two. These are so far, oh, good night. These like, you know. Why 25? Would I have a head deacon that's 25?
You need somebody dynamic, somebody who's going to be in touch with your population.
I like it. Why are they 62?
Because that's the average age of Adventists.
56, actually.
Okay, well, closer to 25.
Okay. So let me tell you why my head deacon is closer to 60. Because trying to get a 25-year-old up at 5 in the morning to open the church is near impossible.
That's right.
So you got to leverage those differences. How old? So anybody want to guess how old my media personnel? How old my media personnel? Anybody want to guess? 28. Anybody else? 23. Why 23?
Younger, fresh out of college, more likely to be
Technology.
looking for a job.
Technology. And guess what? They will stay up till 4 in the morning trying to make church look better. And a builder is gone to sleep at 9 o'clock. They ain't gonna but they're up like the sun at 5. If I need, like we just had in Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago, a huge snowstorm, guess who was on site to plow up the snow? The builders. Millennials aren't gonna come and do that. No offense to you, you just have to acknowledge the differences, appreciate the differences, see where there's some flexibility, and leverage those differences. When you can't leverage those differences, what you have to do as the leader is assert or resolve to do something. So if there was no one in my church that was 62, I'd have to ask a 25-year-old. And I'd have to ask you to be committed to doing that job. We're going to talk about commitment and other cases in the room, so he's going to get on my case about what I say about commitment later. Now, how do we achieve synergy? I want to suggest 5 things that I'm going to lay out for you today. 5 things. The first are some descriptors. Some what did I say, everyone?
Descriptors.
A descriptor is a basic description of each age cohort, including life paradigms, views on technology, careers, and future. Now, please take some notes on this stuff. We don't put this stuff together just for our own good. Amen, everybody. Amen, somebody. Amen, Amen walls. Amen, lights. Descriptors. The next thing we want to talk about are the shadows. Each age cohort has its own shadows. Those dark and foreboding moments that have helped shape their collective psyche. Then we'll talk about myths. Now, shadows are things that happen in each age cohort or an event that a group shared together that has impacted the way they view the world. The myths, there are exaggerated beliefs about each age cohort that, when perpetuated, serve to counteract synergy. Just like we said, different cultures perpetuate stereotypes of one another. There's no way we can work together. And so some of the myths that we perpetuate about millennials and then millennials about builders must be blown to shreds so that we can achieve synergy in the church. Amen? Amen. The next thing we'll talk about is what I like to call table talk, or what they bring to the table. The dinner table played a significant role in shaping family. Traditionally, it was at the table where age cohorts met to share. I want to talk about in that section what each age group brings to the table and wants from the table. If you don't know what they bring to the table, you'll never invite them to the table. If you don't know what they want from the table, they'll never invite themselves to the table. And then finally, we'll talk about how to bridge those gaps. Some of the major issues that age cohorts disagree on that have bridged contribute to generational synergy. Are you ready to go? Good. Let's start with the builders. Now, as we pointed out, the builders were born between 1929 and 1945 with 55.4 million live births. Their life paradigm was be grateful you have a what? Why do you think they thought that way? Let's talk about it.
The Great Depression.
Ah! Who said that? Do you know what? Other case, you got some books to throw out over here? Okay, this is a dead group. I'm not gonna talk to y'all. I ain't gonna do this up in here. I know y'all didn't notice when y'all first came in that I'm black. I'm black. And when black people preach, we talk, y'all talk back. So I say, did you hear what the preacher said? You say? Amen. All right now. Yeah, so that was good stuff. That was good stuff. That's very true. So watch this. Their view of their predecessors or the ones who preceded them was to endure them. They knew they wouldn't be around long, so all we had to endure was endure them, and we get their spots. The way they view things was they are conservative. All right, as a concern technology, they hoped to outlive it. Why do you think that the builders hoped to outlive technology? Somebody, anybody, scream. Take their jobs, okay. They saw that on the horizon. Anybody else? See, you guys aren't old enough to know about this. Huh? What did you say?
The technology in World War II.
Come on, Case, get your stuff, man. Start throwing books at these people. Listen, so here's the thing, watch this. They read things like War of the Worlds. And in things like War of the Worlds, some group was going to come from another planet with better what? Technology, and wipe out all of what? Humanity, starting in America always. It never starts anywhere else. It never starts in Europe, it never starts in Japan. It always starts in America. America's the most important country on the whole entire face of the globe. So it always has to start here. It's supposed to take us out. Everyone else falls like dominoes. So So they hope to outlive technology. Now watch this. That was very good. Let's talk about some of their shadows or the fears that make them what they are. The first one was so critical. The Great Depression. Now, this presentation is not about me helping to inform the world how to cater to millennials. My presentation is about helping everyone understand everyone so no one's the ugly American.
Amen.
The Great Depression is pivotal. Why, preacher? Well, I'm glad you asked. In the Great Depression, some didn't know when they'd get another stick of butter. They didn't know when they'd get another slice, not a loaf, slice of bread. Some had, through the entire Great Depression, 1 to 2 pair of shoes that just stayed literally in the family. So because of that, you know what they learned to do? Conserve. They learned to conserve. They learned to conserve that cheese. They learned to conserve that butter. They learned to conserve. As a matter of fact, if you remember, those of you who remember addicts, like ATTICS, addicts, the upper part of the, your grandparents had so much junk in there. Why do you think they had all that junk in there? They were conserving. They were conserving. They were conserving the cheese. They were conserving the bread. They were conserving the shoes. They were conserving the memorabilia. They were conserving the memento. They were conserving, and so they are conserva.
Come on now.
And this informed the next major shadow. The next major shadow. World War II. Now listen. So some of them left. Finally, they didn't enlist. They were what? They had to go. They had to go. So they were given a sense of duty. They have a sense of duty. A sense of what is required of them. Even if they don't agree with it, a sense of duty and what is required of them. And doing that and performing as they are asked to perform. Now watch this. So they leave from where they had like 2 pair of shoes between 3 brothers, 1 slice of cheese and a family of 7. And they go to war and they're given, you ready? A uniform. They can get what are called like demerits based on the tie being tied wrong, or the shoes being unsigned, or the pants not being pressed. They learn to conserve their uniform. Oh, I wish I had a church. Steve, you see where I'm going with this? They learn to be conservative even as it concerned their uniform. So here you come walking into church. Come here, young man.
Remember you said young.
Yeah. You're the youngest you in here.
That's right.
You want to come in here and look at this outfit he got on. What's going on with this thing, man? He wants to come in church out of. So when the conservative looks at them, they don't hate him. They just wonder, why is he out of? Thank you very much.
That's right.
They need to understand, why are you out of uniform? Or this thing that those of us who read GQ, we think about this thing is called disheveled elegance. Where you kind of got the shirt hanging out right here a little bit. You got your jeans with the distressedness in it right there. They look at that, they say, this person hasn't learned to conserve what they have. Which says to them that you aren't appreciative. So you walk into church and you're hip, you're moving, you're, hey, what's up? Hey, everybody. No. We're about authority. We have a sense of duty. We're about being conservative. We're about preserving the uniform. And when you're out of those things, they don't hate you. They don't understand disheveled elegance. They don't understand why you need an iPhone every 6 months. Y'all need to hear this, because when you don't understand this about the builders, you're shouting at them, hey, I need drums, boo boo, drums, ugly American or ugly millennial. or ugly builder, or ugly boomer, or ugly buster. Because you're saying, you don't get it, you don't understand me. But there is an indictment inherent in the statement that says, you don't understand me, and that statement is, I also don't understand you. And so the builder is informed by not only the Great Depression, not only World War II, but watch this next thing. I need you to get this. Farm to city. Again, remember, these people are coming off of the farm and into the city where now there is this melting pot of values. They all have the same values. The granddaughter had the same values as the mother, had the same values as the grandmother. They spoke the same, they dressed the same, and now they're being injected into a city environment where they start participating in the rat race, and they're slow to acclimate to it. Not only that, not only the Great Depression, not only World War II, not only farm to city, but let me help you explain, any preachers in here, young pastors particularly, young pastors, young preachers, let me tell you, the builder is your best friend. I know we get into ours churches and we want to be hip and we want to show the millennials and all that. Let me tell you, the millennial is not the preacher's friend. Now I just got to tell you this. Not that you hate preachers, but let me help you understand why. It's because of this concept of mass marketing and the expert. Listen to me. This generation is also called the radio babies. You remember I said that? They heard a singular voice coming from the radio as the expert. That singular voice only promoted one product to get your clothes clean, and you didn't question it. You didn't question the radio expert. You didn't question your commanding officer. You didn't question the politician. You didn't question anyone. You viewed them as the expert. As a matter of fact, it is the builder who has this saying, you respect the uniform even when you don't respect the man. They get that. And so when you walk into the church and you go straight to the millennial and you bypass the builder, the reason they're called the builders is because they built that church. Literally. They built it. They built it, and so they are invested in that church. They are invested in conserving that church. They are invested in the uniformity of that church. They are invested, and they have shown it for almost half a century, and in some cases more. What have you shown? The next thing is some of the myths. Older folks are afraid of change. Come on, everybody, say amen. Amen. Don't you say amen to that. They're not afraid of change. Here's the fact. The fact is, builders are actually willing to adapt ideas and work methods for a, what is that? Sound reason. A sound reason. Do you know why young men ran off of boats where gunfire was being hailed at them like raindrops to storm Normandy? They had been given a sound reason. The axis of evil was exterminating a people group. They had a sense of commitment. They had a sense of duty. And they had a sound reason. If change is necessary, they're willing to learn new techniques and approaches when there is a sound reason. The other thing about builders are too old to work. Come on, somebody say amen to that. No. Don't you say amen to that. Here's the truth. The truth of the matter is, builders want younger people to know that they may be physically slower, but their brains are still moving at, watch this, warp speed. I remember my 30s. How old are you?
19.
Yeah. That's why you're laughing now. See, what's going to happen is on the day you turn 40, see, on age 39, you're going to have your birthday party. You're going to be, I'm about to be 40. Some of you going to be sad, about to be 40. And then, like, the day after you turn 40, you're going to be laying in bed, you're going to wake up, and you're going to try to do what you did the day before when you were 39. And your knees are going to say to you, we're not ready to get out of bed. Like at 40, when I turned 40, it was like my knees and other parts of my body started telling me what they weren't going to do. Now my mind was still moving. Come on, anybody here know what this preacher's talking about? Anybody here over 40 remember this? It was like my mind was like, yo, get up, racquetball, get up, basketball, get up. My knees were like, nah, dog, we ain't doing that. Ain't about that life. You're tripping, right? For real, because your body may have slowed down, but your mind has not. There are many things that builders want to do because their minds see them doing it, but their bodies are not physically able. Let's now go to some of the things that they want from the table. Now, this is my president is behind me, so I can't use my normal illustration that I would use. No, I'm just kidding. What each age cohort brings to the table. Now, watch what they bring to the table. They bring and want respect to the table. What they bring is energy and enthusiasm about their churches. You know why they bring that energy and enthusiasm? Because they built it. They didn't build it hoping it was going to fall apart at some point. They built it hoping that it would be conserved. They bring years of wisdom that can contribute to church growth. They want inclusion. They don't want to be written off as too old. They want to be included in the conversations. But here is where you get them every time. My president is here, and he can attest to this being reality. Legacy. Because they built it, they want it to be sustained. They want to know that you're invested in preserving what they built. And so when you come to a builder and you talk about legacy, what will remain after they are gone, you got them. Okay?
That's true.
They want specifics. They don't want generalities. They don't get up and just start moving and determine where they're going once they start walking. That's millennials. You pull up in the car. Hey guys, let's get in the car. Oh, let's get in the car. Where are we going? I don't know. When we get there, we'll know. No. First of all, remember, my knees are telling my brain what it won't do. So it needs a sound reason why it's getting out of this bed, getting in some clothes, getting down these stairs, getting in this car. Where are we going? Tell me before I do any of those things.
Yes.
They want specifics. They want a church that will respect their experience and include them in planning for the what? Future, so they can leave a what?
Legacy. Amen.
You got to understand them if you want them to understand you. Let's go to our next age cohort, the boomers. The boomers are also affectionately called the pigs and the python because they're trapped between the 55.4 million of the builders and the 51.5 million of the Generation X or the busters, so they are that big, just piled up right there in the middle. As it concerns their predecessors, they believe they want to do what? Replace them. Here comes that breakdown in respect for the elders. Replace them. Move out of the way. I'm ready to take over. Their values are self-based. They are central focused, and their view of technology is to master it. Let me give you some news, millennials. Google, MacBook, or PC, no matter what technology you use, it was all created by a boomer. Bill Gates is a boomer. Steve Jobs was a boomer. I know you think that millennials made up all of this stuff, but I got news for you. It was created by boomers. But they had a life paradigm that was very, very interesting. You owe me. And this was informed by some of the shadows. Some of the shadows that loom over the boomers, specifically the baby boom itself. Because that boom, that swell of live births, no institution in America was ready to cater to them. Not the educator, there was not enough room in the classrooms, there was not enough room at the grocery stores, there was not enough anything because it was just such a big boom. So they had to start competing for things. They had to compete for jobs. They had to compete for places in line. They had to compete, because it was so big, so we had to figure out which one was going, what the cream would rise to the top. And for those who felt like they weren't the cream that would rise to the top, they adopted a new phrase. It's my thing, I'll do what I want to do.
Come on now.
And see, now you can't be my member and do that. Okay, you Trevor's member now. That's Trevor, that ain't my member no more. I moved to another church. Another thing is affluence. Affluence became a problem for them because it was always available. So when it was scarce, they didn't understand that. And this is why most people think they're entitled. They're not really entitled, there just always was for them. And so when there's times of scarcity, they're wondering, where is what was for me? Another thing, television. Now, the radio babies gave way to this generation, the boomers. Now, here's the beautiful thing about television during the boomer age. This was before the advent of, now you got, only a few people in here will understand something about me. ZTV and Select TV. What'd you say? Yeah. Oh, just don't do that next time. We'll think you young if you don't know it. ZTV and Select TV and On TV. Who here remember On TV? When you had to get the Sugar Ray Leonard fight on pay-per-view on TV. That was before cable. Look at young. She's like, what? On? I mean, I did turn it on. What are you talking about? Television. Now, here's what happened. Because up until this point, there were 3 channels, 3 networks. NBC, CBS, and ABC, and all of them were showing Andy Griffin, Leave It to Beaver on rotation. So this generation was very connected because of television. Although there wasn't the singular expert anymore, they were still very connected. They could go to school, they can go to work the next day, and everybody knew everything that everyone else knew because it all happened to them simultaneously, or the phrase that was coined for television, in simulcast.
Yeah.
The other shadow is the generation gap itself. Because they were so large, because they were so catered to, because they were so affluent, they were almost on an island. They were a culture again unto themselves. So when they started importing Eastern philosophy, when they started experimenting with hallucinogenic drugs, no one understood that because they had never seen it before. When they started doing new things with gender identity and relationship preferences, this was just so foreign to the world at the time because they were so different from the generations that came before them. Myths. Boomers can't handle technology. Yeah? You want to buy that one for 200? Anybody? Somebody? Come on, take it. No? Okay, you smarter than you look. All right. No, the truth of the matter is, boomers remind us that if they can, watch this, organize and lead a civil rights movement, if they can protect the country in times of war, and if they can build on the infrastructure their parents started, they can certainly learn how to operate a tablet or a smartphone. There is a shortcoming to the affluence that they enjoy, is that this is the generation that was one of the first generations that refused to get old. The reason why there's a proliferation of gyms in the country, boomers. Boomers want to work out because they don't want to get old. Vitamin companies and vitamin stores, boomers. Plastic surgery.
Boomers.
Like, okay, hold on. Can I level with you guys for a minute? Who would think of, I want somebody to freeze me and freeze the sickness in my body, even if I have to be dead and frozen for 30 years, unthaw me, give me the antidote so that I can live. Who in the world would think of something like that? Boomers. Boomers are too bossy. Myth number 2. Anybody? Somebody? You all want to say yeah. Come on, let's be honest. You want to say yeah to this one. You want to say yeah, they're a little bossy. But here's the truth. Boomers want to share their experiences and lessons in order to save younger people from making the same mistakes they made. Boomers didn't like their predecessors' bossiness either and rebelled socially and politically in their youth. Their word to the wise is just advice, not an order. It's not an order. They're just trying to give you advice. As a matter of fact, this generation is almost contradictory at times to think they're bossy, because this is the generation that runs down the stairs because, again, I'm going to tell you something else about the boomers. The boomers chasing affluence and chasing the American dream, they're going to contribute to one of the shadows of the next generation, and that's divorce. Women wanted to pursue their course, men wanted to pursue theirs, so women were going out and doing things, and they were leaving kids, my generation specifically, alone. But before they did so, they come down the stairs in their outfit before they went out, and they'd ask their buster or millennial children, what do you think about what I'm wearing? One of the shortcomings of the boomers is, the boomers, as it concerns millennials, are overly involved in parenting. You don't go to school. To a boomer parent, we're going to school. What are we wearing? Where are we working? Say again?
Helicopter parents.
Helicopter parents. They gave us things like see, I grew up where, and some people who are my age and older, seatbelts were optional, y'all. I don't understand that. And I survived. I mean, I hit my head on the dashboard several times, but hey, I'm okay. Right? I mean, I had the steel jungle gyms. Anybody here just fall off the jungle gym and broke your arm? Hey, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, man. You know, hey, did I get into the Addison a couple of times? Yeah. I didn't need that child lock. I'm okay, right? You know? No. The boomers were the ones who created a lot of that stuff. So here's what they want from the table, what they bring to the table. They bring skills and expertise from their many years in the workforce. And by many years, I do mean many. Many boomers are currently near retirement, but they won't retire. What they want from the table is, what they bring to the table is you can have them fill emeritus positions so that they can mentor the younger generations. There are some things that they know. They bring a wealth of experience and expertise from the workplace. And here's how you lure them. Now here's the generation, them and the builders, you have to understand they worked hard to get that title. They worked hard to get that status. You can't just, because you think, hey, everybody's cool, take that away from them. That's important. If they're an elder, they're an elder. They're a pastor, they're a pastor. I know you want to bring them down to your level and call them brother or friend or, you know, but you have to allow them to offer you that. Don't go in and try and take it from them. You'll lose. So let's move to the busters. How much time do I got before? Busters, the Generation X, 51.5 million live births. Because they're so small, look at this. Relate to me. Dying for attention. And because they didn't get it, they decided, as it concerns their predecessors, they would ignore them. As it concerns technology, they will enjoy it. A job to a buster is an irritant. So, here's some of the shadows. The first one, this is very important, and my generation tends to, it gets a little dark here. Sorry, guys. We were squished. Because we were so small, we were overlooked. The amount of information that has been compiled for boomers and millennials, there is not even a fraction of that information or a fraction of the money invested by the church or any organization to reach, reclaim, retain us. And because we're so small, we couldn't even challenge the other generations for their spots. We're just not big enough. Divorce. The divorce rate did something in America where it finally, the divorce rate of the world, the church challenged the divorce rate of the world. And so my generation was the first, watch this term, latchkey kid. But watch the negative effect of being a latchkey kid. Well, mom and or dad kissed me on the forehead before running off to work. So I determined when I got up. I determined what I wore to school. I determined what I did after I let myself in when I got home. I determined what I would eat. I determined what I could and could not watch. There were no child locks on the cable television then. I determined when I went to bed. And because I made all of these decisions while I was alone, when you come in trying to tell me what to do, I'm wondering, who died and made you my authority? So the busters are anti-authority, statistically. Not everyone. But we are, don't tell me what to do. I've been doing it on my own for all this time, and don't even act like you weren't this way to your parents. We are the generation that started saying the things that the other generations just thought. Here's another shout out. The case, and you guys over here, you will remember this. In the mid 80s, the television flashed with Rock Hudson had AIDS. Now y'all don't even understand what that means. My sisters over here and over here, Rock Hudson was Idris Elba. Could you imagine what it would do to you to find out all of a sudden Idris Elba has AIDS because he's homosexual? Look at you, look at you. Stop it. Girl, waste of a man. That's what you think. So listen to me, Saints. I need you to get this. This is not to throw anybody under the bus. I'm not pushing any agenda as it concerns sexual preferences or relationship preferences. I need you to understand what that does to the collective psyche of a society for its hunk of a man to now come out as having AIDS. Imagine what it does to a society that is suffering from high divorce rates to now know that to engage in the blessing of, how do I say this? Oh, we're all adults here. Intercourse is now dangerous. That this hadn't happened before. This wasn't something someone thought of before. I mean, at the most, something happened to you. You went to the doctor, you got a pill, you got a shot, it was all good. Now, engaging in intercourse could literally kill you. This shadow loomed over the busters. Divorce rate is high, through the roof. The divorce rate of the church is rising out of the world, HIV, AIDS, and then there was no jobs for us. Because the boomers created everything you needed to stay young. They weren't getting out of our way. And we weren't big enough to challenge them for the spots. And so we retreated to our basements because we couldn't be winners in real life and became winners, and became winners on Xbox and Nintendo and Super. I didn't know he was my age. Atari and ColecoVision and in my day, man, we just had Nintendo, and the best thing that happened to us was the Duck Hunt gun. Hey, come on, Pat.
You have to know what to say.
Y'all know nothing about the blowing the cartridge. Did you ever put the cartridge in the freezer? Y'all know nothing about that Tecmo Bowl. Y'all know about Tecmo Bowl. And so this made us very, very skeptical, very skeptical. Busters, some myths about us. Here's where it gets. Busters aren't loyal. This is not true, and this is where, okay, here we go. Busters aren't loyal. Loyalty, as far as the busters and millennials are concerned, is a two-way street. If the church is loyal to them, they will be loyal in return, but cautiously. Now, other cases in here, and he's probably gonna give me the business after this, but I'm gonna launch out into the deep here. The millennials' commitment is consistently being questioned. But the reason why you're not committed to the church is because until recently, they showed no commitment to you. And so the idea is not that you're afraid of commitment, you've committed to a lot of things. But in all of those situations and scenarios where you have committed is because someone has first committed to you. And there was some mutual commitment. No one was asking you to give something. Your friends don't ask you to give something they aren't willing to give to you. My generation created families where my friends are closer to me than my family. And so I may not be committed to the ideas of my family, but to my family, oh, we're thicker than thieves. And so the issue of commitment is millennials and busters commit to who and what commits to them. They are loyal to who and what is loyal to them. Busters have no work ethic. This is absolutely not true. Here is the only thing. Busters will meet deadlines, but don't want to be restricted regarding when, where, or how they work. Measure their work ethic by the results they produce. We don't want to be held to anybody else's standard. We don't want to pay anyone else's concept of dues. Because you had to do it, didn't make it right, so don't force it on me now. Table talk, what they want from the table. Healthy environments, because families were broken apart. So we want churches to have healthy environments. Healthy environments for us, healthy environments for our children. We saw, this is the busters, Jimmy Swagger.
Okay.
So we need the church to be ethical.
Yes.
You get that?
Yeah.
We want a church-like balance. We want balance between the two. We don't want to be in church all day just because we're going to be preaching to me for no hour and a half. Nobody got time for that. Leadership style. Leadership style is very important. They want direct communication and they want to be involved in ministry and activities. Now here is something that is very important to every generation. They want to understand how the church meets its vision and mission. So let me ask a question. All of you in church here, let me see. Everybody here go to church, amen? Amen. You go to church?
Yes, sir.
What's the name of your church?
Legit Simple Church.
Legit Simple Church.
Yep.
Yes, I like that. It's a legit simple church. Yo, it's a legit simple church, Doc. Come through. What's the mission and vision of your church?
I guess I'm old.
No. I wanted to ask you. At this table right here, ma'am, you go to church? Yeah. What's the name of your church? Ethan Temple. All right. What's the mission vision of Ethan Temple?
We live to the glory of God. We serve one another as Christ. We love one another.
No help.
And we serve our company to the best of our ability.
Did you guys hear that? Hold on. Did you guys hear that? No? Did you hear that? Okay, that's cool because let me come and ask. Ma'am, church? You knew I was going to do that. Hilltop. What's the mission and vision of Hilltop?
Our mission is to be a church that outloves any other church and to participate in our community.
Amen. Now, I like that. The honesty of those who do and don't know. I think some people are now searching the internet to make sure they know their church's mission statement. Caught you. Now, here's the thing I like to ask. Ma'am, what's the difference between the mission and vision?
The vision, well, how I think the vision is what you would like. The mission is what you're actually doing.
Yeah. Did you learn that in church?
No.
Yeah. Because Jesus has this statement where he talks about if the blind lead the blind, they will fall into a ditch. The Greek word for ditch is literally a depressed place. And most pastors, some pastors, a few pastors are visionless. And they're leading visionless people, which is why most churches are depressed places. See, because there is no vision, and where there is no vision, the people perish. The people perish. And so this is important. And so I will tell you that I just left the church. My president is here, and he assigned me to literally the church that I wanted desperately to go to since I joined the Allegheny East Conference. But I left the church where I had a dynamic senior pastor who recognized that I had a skill set that she just allowed me to run crazy with. And so we convened the senior pastor, the first elder, and myself in October of one year, and we came up with a new mission vision statement for the church. New mission vision statement for the church. And when we did that, I'm gonna call some of them onto the spot here because they think I'm gonna ask them one question, I'm gonna ask them another one, and I kind of helped them out. So, what is Arlette, Pyle? What is the mission vision of the Metropolitan Seventh-day Adventist Church?
Assuming it's our mission statement, which is through prayer, love, and service, we connect our church community to Christ.
Through prayer, love, and service, we connect our church and community to Christ. Do you know why she knows that? Because we say it every Sabbath. Because we sing it every Sabbath. When you walk into the church, it's on the walls. If you go into the boardroom, it's on the walls. Everything we do, everything we're about is about prayer, love, and service in order to connect our church and community to Christ. And so there's nothing that is happening in that church that is not about connecting the community and the church to Christ. There's nothing that's happening in that church that is not about praying, loving, and serving. They understand the vision. And so even when I have transitioned off, myself and my senior pastor, we used to bring in big name artists. We used to do big event evangelism. Well, today they just launched their second service and they brought in a big name artist and they did big ticket event evangelism. And guess what? They never missed a beat because the church is no longer schizophrenic. schizophrenically following every pastor that comes. They know their own mission and vision. You see, what happens when a pastor comes to a church with their own idea of what their church should be, they get you on board and they doggedly come down and say, hey, today we've decided we're a health ministries church. And the church goes, okay, yes sir, we're health ministries, we're health ministries. And then the conference in their infinite wisdom calls that pastor away to somewhere else, and some new pastor comes in and says, we're an evangelistic church. And the church goes, yes sir, we're evangelistic, we're evangelistic. And they never know who they are. They have no identity because they have no mission and no vision. And so when my president sent me to my church, the first thing I did was issued a survey as to what where that church was in its life cycle. Was it growing? Was it emerging? Was it stagnant? Was it declining? And was it dying? Do you know what my church told me based on the survey they were? My new church? They were a declining church. Some of the indicators of a declining church, guess what it is? Those of you who couldn't answer my question. The indication that a church is in decline is they don't know the mission or vision. It no longer exists, or if it does, no one knows what it is. And so for a year, I preached just character messages. I preached a sermon series called Image is Everything, where I said, irrespective of which age generation you belong to, we were all made in the image of God. The next series I did was the Beatitudes. Before going into the third series I did, which was on the Holy Spirit, I issued a survey to the church so I could know what they understood and what they knew about the Holy Spirit. And I found that this is the second church that finds it very hard to differentiate between whether the Holy Spirit is a person or an impersonal force. And if you don't know if the Holy Spirit is a person or impersonal force, how can he transform your life when you don't know who, not what, he, not it is?
Preach it.
So from there, we transitioned into a series called Body Language. I am a church member, and every person had to pledge to uphold certain aspects of that. Before we moved into January, because it's a slow process, and I'm so grateful for my president being faithful with me, but we just now started talking about our mission and vision. And now we have, and you did an excellent job, and you, of course you didn't learn that at church, but a vision is why we exist.
That's right.
The mission is what we do. And so our vision that I did, now I could have done what my senior pastor did, is we got in a room, just 3 of us, and then we came, and Novella, and you guys at the table, you can testify, we came and we just started saying, the new vision is pray, love, and serve. I helped y'all out. What was the old vision of Metro? Honestly, when we sat at the table today, did you know the old vision of Metro?
I knew one word of it, and that was it.
Did you know? No, thank you.
No, I knew.
They didn't even know the mission and vision of the church before we got there. Right? And so what I could have done is what I did with my previous pastor. I could have come in and said, hey, here's the new mission, here's the new vision, but that would have contributed to the church being what? Schizophrenic.
Okay.
So what I did is I convened a small committee of young adults, of builders, of busters, and boomers with a varied background, and we for several weeks talked about what the mission and vision of this church should be. The vision of the church is to create a safe place to experience Christ-centered relationships. Because all of this sounds good unless it's being made practical. So a vision, the vision of North is, the North Church is a safe place to experience Christ-centered relationships. That's our vision. That's what we hope to become someday. In this climate where I'm in Philadelphia, where the national gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender index is 130 to 100, is my church safe for the LGBTQ? In my city, where we have the 4th largest concentration of African Americans in the nation, and 1/3 of those African Americans are Muslim, is my church a safe place to experience a Christ-centered relationship? Where I'm in a community where there are 38,000 students from all over the country attending Temple University, is my church a safe space for a white person in an urban city to experience Jesus? Is it a safe place for a Hispanic person on a scholarship from Mexico to experience a Christ-centered relationship? Is it a safe place? So we endeavor to someday, oh God help us, be a safe place to experience Christ-centered relationship. Our mission is we exist by the power of Christ to transform our community into a better place. You know why? Because the 19121 is the third highest crime place in Philadelphia. Third highest in Philadelphia. The median income is $16,105. Less than 16% of the people in the 19121 own, which means most of them rent. And at $16,105, what do you think their health is like? What do you think their educational choices is like? In the nation, we are, Philadelphia, #1 as it concerns poverty to population ratio. You know what that means? As the 5th largest city in the nation, we are #1 as it concerns how many people there are, but how poor they are. And so, we exist through the power of Christ to transform our community into a better place. Now, I could have just taken that and said, here's what it is. But we took that from that small committee. We then introduced it to the board, asked the board to vote on it. On my board, there are busters, boomers, millennials, and centennials. See, it's not enough now just to say I got millennials on there. Boomers, builders, busters, millennials, and centennials. We put it to a vote, and they said, yes, we're with it. In April, we're going to take it to the church at session and ask the church if they will adopt this mission and vision. Why are we doing that? Because we need buy-in from every age cohort so they understand the mission and vision. So if we shut down church one day to give out free dental and vision to the community, which we will on July 14th, 15th, and 16th, where you can get everything from your teeth cleaned to a root canal for free. No one will bat an eyelash because we exist to transform our community into a better place through the power of Christ. That's how you do it. And from there, we'll do a strategic plan to meet those goals. Now, do you need me to tell you about yourselves, millennials?
Let's do it.
77.9, life is a cafeteria. They will use technology, they employ it, they are very optimistic. They view their jobs as a place to serve, and this is very important. As it concerns their predecessors, they don't want to endure them, they don't want to ignore them, they want to choose them. Contrary to popular belief, the millennials are a generation who wants mentorship. They want to be mentored. They don't want to be fathered. They don't want to be mothered. They don't want to be governed. They want to be mentored. There's an old phrase that needs to come back to play. They want to be apprenticed. Come alongside the person. Learn as they learn, not bark orders down to them. See them as an equal. Some of the millennial shadows, these go, I don't even have to explain these, heavy parental involvement, helicopter parents, we're going to this, we're doing that. No, we're not, I'm doing it. Another thing is a fear of low self-esteem. Nothing has contributed more to this in the history of the world than social media. We post things, we say things purely for likes, even when we don't mean them, because we want somebody to view us in a positive light. Consumerism. Why on God's green earth do you need a new phone every 6 months?
Go.
I just went to the tax man. The tax man imparted some deep knowledge to me. Pastor Novella Smith, he said to me, if you want what you have, you'll be content. But if you must have everything you want, you'll never be content. And our generation, not our, but this generation sometimes has to have everything they want. Another shadow that looms over them, 9/11. Is it possible that they have some collective post-traumatic stress disorder that nobody's addressing? That as we seek to corral you back into our churches, we're not really talking about how you're feeling? No? Yeah? You don't like that? Shut up, Pastor. We don't want to hear this. It makes you guys very skeptical and emerging young adulthood. This is a phenomenon that you guys are doing, that millennials are doing, that's incredible, because you find it economically advantageous to move back in with your parents. I mean, since we're going to school and we're doing this and we're doing that, why not live together? So the millennials, some of the myths, millennials are too impatient. The truth of the matter is, everybody's impatient. The millennials are just bold enough to say it. Millennials can't add value. That's not true. Millennials have unique experiences to bring to the church. But here's the thing, they're yearning to learn as much as they can and apply it immediately, right? They have new ways of looking at things, new energy, eagerness to learn, but they want to do something immediately. They don't want to have to wait. They want recognition for what they've done. Do you know that millennials play video games where they have to go see, we just did Pong. Boop. 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 Right? They are doing things like, what are these games you guys play? Because I don't play games. Halo, Call of Duty, with these complex maps and strategies and working together. And now they're doing them online where he's over somewhere in New Jersey, I'm in California, but we're working together. And we're like solving these complex problems that you think we can't solve in the real world.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like, I just cleared 5 stages of Call of Duty and didn't lose a life. And see, you're laughing, but have you played Call of Duty?
Right.
That stuff is no game. I don't even know how to move in Call of Duty. Like, I'll get my joystick, I'll be like, nice, I'm good, right? But they are able to, and here's the thing that I found at my previous assignment. I was working with a young man who was in his early 30s who was a civil engineer. Do you guys understand what that is?
Yeah.
This man was a civil engineer. I don't understand what it is either. It's above my pay grade. No, he actually did. See, y'all are judging me and I don't like it. I'm not here for that. No, civil engineer in his mid-30s. He had a wife and was having a little girl. And there was another young lady that I worked with very closely. She was in her late 30s. She had 2 kids, was married. She handled multi-million-dollar accounts for the Army, for the Navy, for the government, and for a company called Oracle. However, when we came to the board, all of my builders and boomers referred to them as young adults. No offense, because the builders will keep the churches open with their pension, their social security, and their unemployment. But they're handling multi-million-dollar budgets and being talked to and demeaned, and the term young adult then becomes a demeaning degradation. And somebody said that a couple of years ago when we did year-end committee, somebody said, my company, my Fortune 500 company will give me keys to the building, but my church won't. Recognize them, give them respect, opportunity to contribute to the church right away, clearly defined tasks, and the freedom to complete those tasks in the manner that they deem best. I normally would talk about this group, but we don't have time. So where's the synergy? Understanding the gaps, how to bridge them. Here's some gaps, how we feel about dress. Builders, dress shows respect in and out of church. Boomers, I wear the expected uniform, but I'm casual at home. Busters, I prefer casual, but it's not worth the fight. Millennials, what's the big deal over dress? I'm here. How they feel about rules. Builders, everyone needs to do what they're told. Boomers, let's create policies and doctrines that are fair for everyone. Busters, rules are made to be broken. Millennials, if it doesn't make sense, chances are it's a doctrine. How they feel about respect. See, and what I mean by that is, this generation can't just be told as previous generations because I said so. That makes no sense. I can Google you and have 5 billion hits on everything you say as you're saying it. So you better know what you're talking about. Or, yeah, you're gonna tell me that's a doctrine. I will figure out the hierarchy and find my place. Boomers, this is respect. I can work my way up to a position that gets respect. Busters, I will give you respect if you prove to me you deserve it. I will give respect, millennials, to those who get it and take me seriously. But the indication here is then you also aren't getting something. We have to understand one another, so no one's the ugly millennial, no one's the ugly buster, no one's the ugly boomer, and no one is the ugly builder or the ugly American. Millennials, I'll come to church if we're having more fun. Busters, it's church. Quit trying to make something it's not. Boomers, can church be fun? Church is not about fun. And so finally, How we bridge the gaps. Again, remember, acknowledge, talk about the differences, appreciate the differences, flex, adjust to the differences, leverage, take advantage of the differences, and when you have to, assert as it concerns those differences. Now remember this, imagine a group or a person pregnant with possibilities, written off as too old to birth anything. Remember that, guys?
Yeah.
Or yet another group or person pregnant with potential, maligned because the timing and circumstances surrounding their potential to birth something seemed a bit unorthodox. Remember that one, guys? Now imagine that the salvation of humanity depended on what each group or person birthed working together. Well, it did and it still does. Let me introduce you to Elizabeth and Mary. Elizabeth was too old to birth. Mary's circumstances surrounding her being pregnant were a little bit questionable, so she shouldn't be allowed to birth. She was a little too young to birth. But now, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. What if what Elizabeth birthed didn't herald what Mary birthed? We wouldn't be sitting here at Young Adult Summit 2017 because Elizabeth gave birth to John the Baptist and Mary gave birth to Jesus Christ. The generations must work together to herald salvation to an increasingly anti-church, post-Christian, pluralistic, secular world.
Yeah.